If you're sick and tired of the woke world of liberal globalism, as of this weekend, your hopes and longings for the rise of a new post-globalist political order have come true. In this video, I'm going to show precisely how a massive parallel world replete with parallel markets, parallel financial systems, parallel currencies is, as we speak, totally disrupting the globalist world order. I'm going to show you how the days of Bumblin Biden and the bullies in Brussels calling the shots for the rest of the world are indeed over, and a new post-globalist political age truly has begun. You are not going to want to miss this. Greetings, everyone. Dr. Stevie with you. Great to be with you. As always, I'm your daily fake news antidote, your PATRIOT professor, helping you think better so you can feel better in these crazy and insane and turbulent times. So make sure to smack that bell and subscribe. Before we begin, just a reminder that it is rhino hunting season here on our channel this month, the month of February. We designated as Rhino Hunting Month. We're trying to defeat as many Republicans in name only as possible. For those of you who missed tickets from my upcoming Rhino Hunting Boot Camp, which are all sold out, you can still support the fight through my Change America initiative. Click on that link below or go to change.turleytalks.com to help fight rhinos and support patriots running for office just by living out your life. It's an amazing program that rounds up your purchases to the nearest dollar and then uses that change to support the nationwide patriot movement that's growing by the day. And as a thank you, if you sign up with our Change America program, you're going to get free access to my weekly exclusive Monday night live streams, which you're going to absolutely love. Tonight's is going to be a doozy. You're going to love it. So make sure to click on that link below right now and support patriots while defeating rhinos all across the country. Click on that link or visit change.turleytalks.com. All right, let's dive right in here. The Bumblin Biden administration and the NATO sphere have gone full Trudeau on Russia. Just as the woke joke Justin Trudeau froze the bank accounts, not just of Freedom Convoy participants, but even some of those who simply donated to the Freedom Convoy. Just as Trudeau froze their bank accounts, so now the United States and EU have announced that they are freezing Russian financial assets in an effort to cripple the Putin government. The key to get here is that there are two massive sets of sanctions being imposed on Russia from the U.S. and the EU. First, you have the expulsion of a number of Russian banks from what's called SWIFT, which stands for the Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunication. Okay, it's a very cumbersome name for a worldwide financial transaction platform. What SWIFT basically does is it provides the platform that enables and records exchange information about global monetary transactions. So as I understand, SWIFT, it doesn't actually do the financial transactions. It acts more like a middleman between all the international banks. It provides the information needed in order for those transactions to go in effect. It was founded in 1973 in Belgium, and as we're finding with these sanctions, it's owned and operated almost solely by the United States and the EU member nations, with the sole exception of Japan. The central banks that oversee SWIFT are all American and European. But even although it's a thoroughly Western monetary system, transaction system, nevertheless, it is the default transaction system for over 200 countries all over the world. So when all is said and done, SWIFT isn't simply a part of economic globalization. SWIFT is economic globalization. SWIFT is the informational platform that enacts a single, one-size-fits-all economic platform to which all nations adhere. But as we're finding out, not all nations control. That privilege belongs alone to the United States and the European Union. And what the U.S. and the EU have done as of this weekend is they've cut off a number of Russia's major banks from this international transaction platform, thus impairing Russia's ability to engage in international trade and transactions. Now, what's so strange in all of this, of course, is that these sanctions purposely left Russian gas and grain, their food and fuel exports, untouched. So it's a bit ambiguous here in terms of how this is going to ultimately hurt Russia when its number one exports aren't being affected. And they continue to be paid for by SWIFT. Talk about irony of ironies. But regardless, it was a very, very brazen move by Bumblin Biden and the bullies in Brussels. And it's being bolstered, secondly, by the sanctioning of Russia's central bank. Now, this was a huge move by the U.S. and the EU. They're actively attempting to seize upwards of $630 billion stockpile of international reserves that Russia's built up over the years, particularly in its international gold fund. Now, they're not going to be able to freeze the whole $630 billion, only those reserves that are actually in Western banks. And I have no idea how big that number is. I'm sure it's pretty low. But the significance of this is that international reserves allow a central bank to bolster its currency when it deflates, which is precisely what we're seeing happening right now in Russia. It's temporary, but it is still, yes, very effective. If a nation's currency gets hit, gets shorted on the world markets, whatever, the central bank of that nation can then tap into a reserve of alternative currencies it has. For example, it could buy up the faltering currency and nurse it back to economic health and thereby avoid interruptive and destabilizing inflation. So what's happening here with these sanctions is that the ruble, of course, has taken a massive hit since the breakout of the war in Ukraine. There's no doubt that the U.S. and the EU will continue to hit the ruble to devalue it even more, to short it. And now, by freezing attempting to freeze Russia's international reserves, Russia supposedly won't have the financial resources to rescue the ruble. Okay, and without the ability to rescue the ruble with alternative currencies, the Putin government is vulnerable to collapse under the weight of mass political discontent, with plummeting material conditions infecting the whole of the Russian population. That's the theory, right? Obviously, in my view, I think that's highly unlikely. But that's the theory behind the sanctions as I understand it. Again, it should be noted that even though a number of Russian banks have been kicked off SWIFT and Russia's central banks' international reserves are being targeted, nevertheless, because Europe is so dependent on Russian exports, those exports are totally unaffected by these sanctions, which means that Russia will continue to get paid. They make close to $1 billion a day in food and fuel exports, grain and gas, which in turn is going to soften the blow, as it were, of these sanctions, as well as the devaluing of the ruble. However, what's so astonishing in all of this is it doesn't appear that the Western nations inflicting sanctions recognize that in sanctioning Russia, they've just effectively killed the globalist system that they control. For example, take a look at this piece from ABC News explaining what SWIFT is and why it's so devastating to Russia. But note how the ABC story ends. Okay, this is its last sentence. Quote, "Being cut off from SWIFT will make it harder for Russian entities to process transactions and do business beyond its borders. Russia does have its own messaging system that it could use in tandem with China, though it would not be easy to switch over from SWIFT." Russia has its own messaging system that it could use in tandem with China, but that's not going to be easy. I mean, this is unbelievable. It's unbelievable because this reporter is utterly clueless to the fact that Russia's own messaging system, particularly with China as well as India, by the way, the two most populous nations on the planet, that messaging system is precisely the means by which economic globalism is about to be stopped in its tracks. Again, remember, SWIFT isn't just a part of economic globalism. SWIFT is economic globalism. SWIFT is the platform by which all financial institutions all around the world are integrated and interconnected. And it guarantees, as you can see, American and European control over the entire global economy. America and Europe can at any time cut off any nation they want from this platform, enabling international financial transactions. And so obviously the non-Western world, the non-US EU world, is getting rather nervous over this. Given that the US and the EU can now effectively weaponize international economic independence, more and more nations are asking, when are the U.S. and the EU going to start threatening our nation with these kinds of sanctions? And so this weaponization of the international banking system is causing nations like China, India, Pakistan, and the like to entertain alternative economic systems, alternative monetary transaction platforms that will indeed create a very real worldwide alternative to Western liberal globalization. The unipolar world is coming to an end right before our very eyes, and a new post-globalist multipolar world is rising. And it's already happening. We can see it. Look at this from the Global Times. Yuan, which is China's currency, of course, yuan increasingly preferred amid de-dollarization of China-Russia trade. And the article goes on to point out that both Russia and China have long wanted to get rid of the dollar in their trade transactions. And the latest sanctions by Bumblin Biden, the Bullies in Brussels have basically sealed the deal that all transactions between Russia and China are going to be done with the yuan rather than the dollar. And they're going to be doing it on an alternative platform to that of SWIFT. China has an international payment system called KIPS. It's an acronym for Cross-Border Interbank Payment System. Came out in 2015, and it facilitates the transfer and settlements of international payments using the yuan. Already upwards of 23 Russian banks are currently connected to KIPS. And Russia is going to have no trouble doing business with its number one trade partner, China, using a SWIFT alternative. In other words, we are witnessing right before our very eyes what does appear to be nothing less than the end of economic globalism, with Russia, China, increasingly India joining forces on alternative financial processing platforms. The era of a single worldwide economic system is coming to an end. The Western financial system is ceasing to be the global financial system. Again, like I said, from the very beginning of this whole outbreak, this is so much more than just Russia and Ukraine. This is nothing less than the end of the neoliberal globalist world order. Parallel markets, parallel financial systems, parallel currencies. What's been evolving rather organically over these last several years is now becoming the new norm. A new political order is rising, and the old globalist political order of the Bidens and the Trudeaus calling the shots for the rest of the world just got a whole lot smaller. Now, before you go, you definitely want to check out my latest video I just uploaded on how Ukraine is on the verge of collapse as the new world order implodes. You're not going to want to miss it, so make sure to click on that link, and I'll see you over there. God bless.